All right, good morning. It is Monday morning, May 19th, 2025. Welcome to Coffee Talk. That's May 19th. We're almost through May, people. They say time flies when you're having fun, but I don't know if anybody's having that much fun in 2025. Yeah, so I was out all last week. I did not get thrown out of Detroit, so that was a good week, good time up there. Got to spend some time with a new paint line. A long time ago, I absolutely fell head over heels for a paint line called De Beer. It was a polyester water. Yes, they had a solvent line as well. Loved that thing, put a lot of shops on it, lots of productivity, lots of money savings. And then Valspar was acquired. I wasn't a fan of the acquisition. But now I found a new product. So, I got some swag while I was up there spraying last week. So, Boslock exceeded my expectations. I was pretty happy with it. I was hoping for a low cost, high performing alternative for a lot of shops. And it exceeded it. So the water has a ton of toners, more toners than the solvent line does. But the water has a ton of toners, and I couldn't find a color that they couldn't mix for me. And shout out to Sada. So Chris Springer and the boys from Sada joined me on that adventure last week. I always they paint way more than I do, and so my opinion on painting, you could kind of take it for a grain of salt, right? But so it was always nice having them there to spray it. And do you feel what I feel? Do you see what I see? Am I making it up? Any of those kind of things. So we had a great time. But that's not what you're here for. For this morning, you are here to talk about what's going on in the industry over the last week. And what's coming our way. So, pretty good day for episode 34. Hard to believe we were 34 episodes into this in May. We're going to talk about what's going on with that Senate video that everybody was posting. And oh my God, has it pissed me off. Like, I am livid with about half the industry right now. Extremely disappointed in a lot of shops over that video. So we're going to talk about it because that's what I do. What's the problem with adjusters these days? How do you pilot a hiring freeze? I mean, there's a lot of shit you can pilot, but I don't know if you pilot a hiring freeze. Insurer lawsuits against collision repair centers. We'll talk about some of those. Rate increases. Do they even make sense right now these days, or is it just kind of a joke in and of itself? By the way, Tesla is terrible at insurance. They're terrible at a lot of things. They're terrible at running collision repair shops. They're terrible at having a collision certified program, and they're terrible at insurance and claims. So I'm going to shift my focus to banging around on Tesla for a little bit today. Any chance I can to take a jab at them, I will gleefully do. Still working on that documentary. I'm excited when that whole thing comes out. I think it's going to blow a lot of people's minds. We're going to talk about Wisconsin and a new compliance tool that they have for shops, and what are some of the upcoming courses and things that we got going on. Good Lord, do I need caffeine? I got this week at home, and then next week I am back out again. I'm going to be in Pennsylvania at the AASP meeting or trade show. It's like a trade show. It goes on from I think Thursday through a Saturday or whatever. I'll be there all day Friday teaching negotiations. So I got to cram in a lot of work over the next couple of days. All right. I haven't been this fired up in a while. I mean, I get mildly entertained at a lot of things that go on in the industry, and then I poke at some stuff just to make it interesting. But this one really, really got me angry. And I think what got me angry the most is that I don't believe anybody half the people that shared this video watched the damn thing at all to even know what they were sharing about, because this is homeowners' claims in catastrophe situations. So why body shops were even on this at all blows my mind. Why people, and it wasn't just body shops. We had people that were on board members of industry associations that were passing this thing around. Now, look, I love you guys and I love this industry, but if you were sharing this video across social media as a collision repair shop, you're going to get a here's your sign moment from me, because this completely wasn't something that you probably should have been talking about. And I want to go ahead and come clean. I have a bias here. And so I am aware of my bias. And I'm going to make you aware of my bias. This is not the first time that we've had government get involved in the way catastrophe claims are handled, and Katrina for State Farm got a lot of attention. Now, I was a cat adjuster. I was a cat manager. I was a cat director. Working catastrophe claims for an insurer takes a very special skill set and a specialized group of people. Now, I've been out of it for a while, and I'm well aware that things changed and mentality changes and those things changes. But you don't make a lot of money working cat. I know that's a misnomer. People think that you get paid tons of money to go out on catastrophe duty, but you don't. So you're there because you really love customers, and you're willing to do things. During Katrina, I slept in an office under a table. We didn't have hotels. We didn't have water. We didn't have gasoline. There were so many things we didn't have in Katrina, but we were still trying to work claims. So when the whistleblower situation happened from the two sisters that were independent adjusters in Mississippi, I about lost my mind, because back then you were accusing me technically as a claim director, and you were accusing insurance companies that we were intentionally trying to get out of paying claims. And it's just not how it works. I don't like that delay, deny, defend book. That's not how that works either. If you've been in claims and you've been through claims training, you know that's all crap as well. So I take it personally when it comes to anything about catastrophe, because I did it. And I think of most people that were sharing this video and passing it around and trying to say, oh, hey, look at the insurance companies. You people have never worked cat in your life. Like you don't know what it takes to be a cat adjuster. You don't know what independents are. You don't know any of that. But let me just go back and say, in this video, the government, we have a senator that is deposing, or I don't want to say deposing, that's not really the right word, but he's got Allstate and State Farm leadership on a witness stand going back and forth. And there are employees that are alleging that insurance companies are directly change estimates to lower claim payment. I said a few things online, and some people started to chime in. Well, I didn't want to talk to it out loud, but I wanted to let you know that I was writing estimates for such and such insurance company on a hail catastrophe, and they made me change my estimates and take R&I off. Yeah, because that's in insurance, it owes for damage, not repair. And so typically an upfront, since the dawn of time, R&I hasn't been on the estimates until the vehicle gets to the shop. Other people chimed in and said, well, the field appraisers don't have any authority anymore. They come out and look at them and it has to go back. Yeah, that's pretty much every insurer, right? Even State Farm. I have 25-year experienced field adjusters that have to go write estimates and give them back to an in-office unit, basically that's going through an AI rule system. And shocker, people, mostly it's the estimating software companies that invented these AI rule systems that these are going through. But there's a lot of debate there that we don't know, right? It's cat claims, it's homeowners, it's not auto. So I was blown away at the number of times that I kept seeing this video get posted in forums, personally, by shops on their personal pages. And then I even started getting some emails sent to me, backdoor channels, because shops were emailing this video to consumers. Like, did you think this was going to make people not want to change body shops or steering? Some of those blew up in the shop's faces when they sent the video. And the angry part. So why am I so angry? And here's the thing that we have to just we got to own it. This industry, the shop side, doesn't have really any right to be poking fingers and blaming and trying to make the insurance company out to be the evil person in this, because, well, we're responsible for John Eagle. That was a technician. That was a shop that fixed that vehicle that way. That upper picture there, welds, I see that every day. That's standard. That's what I would consider industry standard out of just about every damn DRP in this industry, and shops that are not DRPs. And then we have a majority of shops installing aftermarket parts that get recalled. It's like, our house over here isn't clean. We don't fix cars appropriately. We'll stand in our shop holding an aftermarket damn scan tool and targets and then get mad when the insurance company won't pay us OEM procedures. Like we don't follow the procedures. We don't weld. I don't think 99% of this industry, and Larry says I'm probably being generous when I say 99%. He's probably 99.9% of this industry doesn't weld well. We had a weld coaching program. Jason Barton has taken that off on his own, and he's kind of turning that into his own business of weld coaching. And we'll go into these shops that have passed welding certification programs through other vendors, and it's terrible. Like when an insurance company doesn't pay a claim appropriately, the customer has some remedies. Sometimes it's RTA. It may be small claims court. It may be court, but the customer has some remedies when an insurance company doesn't do their job. But when body shops don't do their job, when we're not procedures, we're not fixing cars right, we're not installing the right parts, we're not doing any of these things, the customer really doesn't have a remedy, mostly because they don't know what they don't know. So unless this car shows up for a post-repair inspection, goes to another shop for repairs, our dirty deeds are covered under paint. And customers pick up cars and go driving. An insurance company not indemnifying a claim appropriately is one thing. What we do actually can harm human beings. So do we need to be sitting around and pointing our finger at the insurance companies? No. What I would caution just about everybody that had shared that video across the internet is, what would you do if that was you in a chair in front of a Senate hearing committee, if you were being questioned, if I got to put together a panel of experts to advise senators and re-inspections were done on your cars and we interviewed your customers, and sometimes let's say we interviewed your employees. I have employees that send me photographs and messages all day long going, hey, I work at this shop. This is what we should do to fix the car, but the owner has said, no, don't do it that way. Do it this way. I have a industry association, a shop that's on the board, and its employees are messaging me saying that they're charging to replace panels, but repairing them, and they're sending me pictures. And like, we do really bad. I think both sides of this fence are messed up, right? But we don't deserve to be plastering that video around and acting like we're great and insurance companies are bad and it's the insurance company's fault. Like I firmly believe the insurance companies could just say, great, we'll pay whatever. And we still probably couldn't get a car fixed right in this country. And so to turn around and do that, I think it's hypocritical by a lot of body shops, right? If you wouldn't, I always tell them, if you wouldn't let Larry, or let's say a Mike Anderson or somebody in your shop to re-inspect every car you've repaired over the last 6 months, probably shouldn't share that video. If you've installed an aftermarket part, probably shouldn't share that video. If you've not had your technicians validated to see if they can understand welding parameters based on OE procedures and the equipment you have in the shop, you probably shouldn't share that video, right? It's not good, but it doesn't necessarily make us better than them. And that's what a lot of people were sharing it and going, see, insurance companies cheat and they do whatever. And I'm over here going, for some of the people I saw posted, it's like, I've seen your repairs, right? Like I had one shop posted that's under SIU investigation right now. I'm like, I've seen your house. I've seen your closets. You of all people probably shouldn't be sharing that stuff. And yet there they were. So it angered me the way that took off, because we could spend an hour here of me just showing you the bad post-repair inspection photos I've taken in just the last month, much less the last year. I have a death claim that has made my desk, and I started looking at it this week, and the law firm that contacted me just wanted a review. and they paid a retainer, and I did a review, and then I had to call them back and go, hey, I may need to give you a refund. And they were like, what do you mean? I sent them a video. I said, I've re-inspected this shop before. I re-inspected this shop's work and had them do a buyback about the same time that this car would have been repaired in that shop. And then that car was repaired a second time, so it was repaired after that as well. And this industry did a really good job of protecting that particular shop group and its leader. And instead of saying what's not acceptable. So in this industry, if people spend money, whether it's they're buying equipment or paint or whatever, they can do whatever it seems they want to a consumer, and we don't care. We don't get mad about it as an industry and say, hey, this person or this group is tearing our industry down and putting consumers in danger. We let them sponsor stuff and be on posters and billboards, and we give their leadership team awards at industry events and whatever. So I had to write this law firm back and go, I've actually inspected the shop before. Larry and I have volunteered to work this one for free, because we think it's time that we got there as an industry, that instead of like hiding the bad, and then pointing our fingers at the insurance companies, that we tend to take this. Now, what does that lead to? I always get asked this, because I was a cat adjuster. I was a lot of things. I take things personally when we start wagging fingers at insurance companies. But what it does is it facilitates this adjuster mentality, right? We tend to we tend to point blame but never accept accountability. So in other words, as an industry, our collision repair association should be worried about all the bad actors in our market and trying to get those shops to go out of business. We tend to want to look on the other side of the fence and talk about what the insurance companies aren't paying for. And that gets a little, as an adjuster, you start to feel like you're constantly attacked, right? Like you got to be in defense mode 24/7, 365. And then that gets passed on to new people as they're hired, and it kind of festers, and it's adjuster mentality. It's why it's so hard right now to have just a common sense conversation with anyone on the other side. I've got an ongoing issue right now with Progressive on right to appraisals, and from their adjuster level to field level management, it's like, I need you to take a breath and pause for a minute so I can walk you through where you're about to lose the company a ton of money and reopen every closed claim for the last 5 years. But just getting them to that point. This was shared to me this week as a Geico adjuster. We're going to have a problem with the customer. He has the same kind of personality, referring to the shop. He has the same kind of personality and is mad at us for not bending over backwards to concede everything the shop demands to make his car back to factory. That attitude of what the adjuster is thinking, the literal words that were typed there. I mean, this is definitely not something I'd want on a witness stand as a claims manager to have to respond to. Because that's my job as an adjuster, is to bend over backwards to do whatever it takes to get the car back to that pre-loss condition, or whatever you want to put it. It's what you paid the premium for, and that's my job, right? like why you not want to do your job, so to speak. But you just get bitter, and the more bitter you get, the more you want to say no, and you just dig your heels in. And you make a judgment call of what they think is owed or not owed before they even look at the pictures, talk to the customer, look at your estimate, all of those things. And some of that is how we present ourselves and how we handle it. And so if we're always just lobbing grenades over the other side of the fence, I used to tell shops, you don't want to do that. Like it's not going to go well for you if the other side decides to lob back a few grenades. And I just, this whole thing, if you're a shop, there are a few out there. I know a few shops that do great work. Anyone could come in their shop, inspect any car they've fixed in the last several years, and it's going to be great. If you're one of those shops, share that video. If you're not, specifically if you are a DRP, that video is not yours to share. Like that's That's not for you to try to say, look at the other side, look how bad they are, because that other flip, I just keep going back to the fact that an insurance company not paying a claim right is bad. Um, but what we do on this side of the fence, 9 times out of 10, which is not at the direction of an insurance company, the way that we fix cars, don't follow the rules, don't do whatever, that literally puts lives in jeopardy. So there's way more finger pointing and blame to be done at us than there is to be on the other side of that fence. And that's just accountability. Like, you got to take accountability for your own. Is your house clean? Are you perfect? If you're not, what do you need to do to improve? And then when there are bad actors in the marketplace, we don't protect those shops. It's not my job to make sure every shop in a marketplace is happy and healthy and making money. It's my job to make sure only the best are happy and healthy and making money. And if you're not fixing cars right, then you don't need to be in business. And we need to be, as an industry, doing more post-repair inspections and doing things to put those people out of business, because it doesn't look good. So I say, it just doesn't look good on that side of the fence when you think about it from an insurer's perspective. So if you have shared that video and you don't think that your house is wonderfully clean and that you would be okay if anybody showed up and started to pick through your back door or whatever, delete it. And then clean up this side of the house first before we start worrying about poking fingers and putting blame on anybody else on the other side of that fence. So, all right, let's talk about, this one made me laugh. It probably wasn't 2 or 3 weeks ago. We saw a press release from Boyd Gerber come out talking about changes in their leadership team and this new 360 Project 360 they were going to do, and profitability and some things that they were going to push. So I thought they're piloting a hiring freeze. That's pilot. When you pilot something, that's like, we're going to test a new piece of software to see if it works. A hiring freeze is just a hiring freeze, right? I don't test them, I just do them. But they are pausing hiring to reorganize what they would consider non-production employees. So production employees, without really asking them, but our production employees would be people that actually probably are twisting wrenches and spraying paint. They have looked at the cost operations of collision repair. At one point, we were telling people it was almost 1-to-1. So like one estimator for every body tech, and that's not sustainable or profitable. And so overhead gets really high. So they're looking at that staffing model. I think the body shop of the future is going to look very much more like a factory style setting and environment than it does today. You'll have all this production, hands-on car kind of people that really aren't interfacing with a lot of anything else. Most of the customer service and some things will probably be done off-site. And as Gerber looks to explore some of those things with everybody else, every body shop is going to have to start looking at staffing when someone leaves or retires or whatever. We're going to have to ask ourselves, do I really need to replace that person in that role? Or do I shift and move some people around the shop to make up for their labor and not replace them? Or do I move some things around and start looking at a new bottle? We can either be Blockbuster and all kind of go out of business, or we can kind of morph and change our business into something else. We do the virtual estimating off-site for a lot of shops now. And it's great, right? Productivity within the shop is higher. And estimating accuracy is way higher when you take estimating sort of out of the shop and put it in more of a incubator style, non-interrupted environment. So there's a lot to do. I thought this was interesting reading this quote from the article. So this is Repair Driven News. You can go and read the whole thing if you want to. But it says, our sales today are very much in line with what sales were a year ago. So sales is basically gross. Our gross is the same as where it was a year ago, but we've added 58 additional locations. Now, what's interesting there for me is that most most MSOs like to tell you they're growing, right? Like we've raised revenue by $5 million, but they bought 4 shops. So did you raise revenue or did you go and acquire somebody else? So a lot of that times when these places are saying, look at all of our growth, it's not true growth. It's just you bought another roof, and that roof had existing revenue on it already. So if you stayed the same, let's say you had 10 locations, and the next year you had 10 locations, but you had increased sales $4 million. That's impressive, right? But this was interesting that their sales are about the same, but they've got 58 new locations. And so as they look at those, the cost burden that exists now within the structure with some immature stores that are still developing and not seeing the volume that they would have normally seen in a normal environment. So we had a lot of stores that were designed to be a number store. And when the numbers were there, the profit was there, although very small. And as soon as the numbers start to drop, well, then overhead starts to really, really, really eat your lunch in a lot of ways. And that's how you have shops that are really busy but broke, right? So that's that overhead. And then it says they were not contributing the same sales that we would expect. And then you've also got the same store sales declines in the mature base of stores. So in other words, here's our existing group of stores, and their sales are declining, mostly because claim volume is decreasing. And that isn't helping their operating expenses either. And that's really the kind of dilemma we're in the current environment. So we staffed for this unsustainable sort of one-to-one model kind of thing, doing some things that were silly. We took on a lot of admin type stuff that were silly. We've had some processes that are silly and have added some extra people to it that a paint company or somebody told us would be a great idea, right? And that's all cool when there's a certain level and you can say you're still profitable, but as soon as that work availability declines, then all of that overhead starts to eat your lunch a little bit because those expenses are still there. And claim volume isn't. So continue to do this. I give them kudos for looking at alternative ways to staff and run a body shop. Like, I mean, we have all this technology available to us today, but for the most part, we're still running body shops the same way we were running them like in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. We have estimators and we have technicians and we have detailers and we have preppers, and job titles and duties and responsibilities haven't really changed much. And that's insane to think out of all of this time that's gone by, that those things haven't happened, right? Like, we haven't rethought the whole workflow and the way this does. So I give them kudos for that. I don't think without doing that, anybody survives, not just an MSO, but even an independent single store location. We have to think differently. We have to staff differently. There's not as much profit in a lot of things as there was before. So, and we're fighting for profit, whether that's supplements, whether that's material invoices or whatever that is. So I'll give them kudos for that. So that was but it's not, you're not piloting a hiring freeze. You either have one or you don't. So that was kind of like, huh? All right, let's talk about insurer lawsuits because they are picking up across the board. And what I mean that is it's insurers suing collision repair shops. So in every state right now, I kind of keep this little map in my office of where I've got cases actively going. And it's East Coast, West Coast, it's the South, it's the North, it's the Midwest. These cases are everywhere right now where insurance companies are filing, and it's mostly total losses and total loss storage fees, et cetera, or replevin in some of those cases. But then there are some just flat out repairable cases and some things that are out there. Insurers coming back a couple of years later and going, hey, we overpaid, we want our money back, and going for those. This one was Ohio Mutual filed against a body shop. He gave me permission to share it. We just took the judge and some attorney names off of it. But they filed, the shop filed their rebuttal, right? Their pleadings back, and the insurer immediately dropped it. And I thought this was a good one to remind us based on some other things that started getting posted around the other day. So this is some shots from one of the groups on Facebook. a body shop experiencing an insurance company, so Allstate, coming now and asking for the shop's forms and authorization documents. And why would they want that, and why would they not? And so we shared several of some of the responses here by people. And here's why. So I'll just break this down for you, why an insurance company is asking for those things. We've been talking about this I had to go back. It's been 8 years now that we've been talking about this. Authorization to repair forms and direction to pay forms were not meant for collision repair centers. Those were DRP forms. Those came out of a lawsuit in the 90s, in which we were doing DRP and we were making assignments. The cars were getting fixed, bills were getting sent in, we were paying a body shop, and then we had a customer sue us and go, yeah, you're going to pay that claim again. And we were like, no, we took care of that. Don't worry about it. We handled it so it would be easy for you. And the customer was like, no, I know what you did, but I didn't tell you to do that. And I remember when that first happened, we were all like, this is silly. There's no way. There's no way we're going to pay this claim twice. And we were wrong, right? So we paid the claim twice. And basically what it was we made an assignment to this body shop. And even though we had this phone conversation with the customer and said, would you like to do whatever? There was no paperwork. And so as soon as we made that assignment to that shop, they just took it and ran with it, right? It's typically what happens with a DRP. They took it, they ordered parts, they did everything. The car was ready. They called the customer and said, come get it. Just bring us your deductible. And then the customer got the car, paid the deductible, drove home and filed lawsuit. Because we never had anything in there that really officially authorized the shop to do any of the things that they were doing. I don't have a legal relationship as an insurer with a repairer. Even on a first party claim, I don't have any rights to that car and how to repair it or to authorize anything or any of that. Something I wish insurance companies would explain to adjusters a little bit more now these days. So we had to have these forms. So we come up with an authorization to repair and a direction to pay form, and we send them out to body shops, and most body shops look at them and go, gee, those forms sure do look good. I think I'll get them signed on every car that comes in here. And most of them lack the legal authority to do what a lot of shops do when it comes to submitting supplements, ordering parts, doing a lot of things. And insurance companies know that. So they want to see your forms because they're deciding, I was telling this shop, they're either deciding whether they're going to sue you directly for something or file for replevin, or they're going to authorize a customer to yank a car from you. So if I want to go pull the car and not pay the shop to pull it to another shop and fix it under the DRP. Let's say you're one of the shops saying, hey, this thing, you're going to pay me this, we're going to fix the car right or whatever. And I want to take it away and you want to go, well, that's great, but I got $6,000 in tear down. If you want to take it to another shop and have them fix it, you're going to pay my $6,000. Yeah, I don't want to pay that. So I'm going to figure out a way to get out of it. And that's what they're looking for. So it's not because we just want to have a record of it. It's not any other reasons. They don't really care about a DOP or any of those things. I can ignore a DOP for the most part. I don't even have to, my legal requirements are per the policy. But they are looking to see if you have a proper repair authorization in the form of a contract. So that services agreement. It is now more important than ever that if you are a collision repair, that you have more than an authorization to repair and a direction to pay form. You need a multi-page services legal agreement between you and the customer that outlines what their responsibilities are, both financial and legally, and then what your expectations of service and requirements are. And that needs to be very well written. Now, we've got one. It's not mine. It's attorney Erica Eversman, who's out of Ohio. It's her contracts and forms. She's taught a class. She's been a guest speaker at like SEMA and different places. You can just Google Erica, and you'll find her personally. You can get the forms from us. You can probably get the forms or get a contract from a bunch of other people, or go visit your attorney. Contracts, it should be multiple pages. If your contract probably is not multiple pages, it probably isn't enough to protect your business. And then there's also going to be whatever the base requirements of your state are. So every state has differences, and some states have specific paragraphs with fonts and whatever that has to be in them. But you need to get a real contract, not a single form, or any of those things. And those come in handy when the insurer is trying to decide whether they want to come after your shop personally. But those also come in handy if we have to go to small claims court. So we have an uptick in consumers or body shops using small claims court as a collection opportunity. Some states increased their small claims court limits during COVID. I think Texas jumped to like 20 grand. Some states that were 5 jumped up to 10. There is a lot to be done in small claims court. But you do have to have your paperwork together. So that's that contract. You got to have that. You also need to have your documented timeline of where you worked diligently with the consumer, and the consumer worked diligently to try to get a resolution that wasn't small claims court. You need to have that final denial letter that says we ain't paying any more than this. Larry talks about it all the time. He'll walk into a small claims court in New York or he'll get asked, why isn't this in front of the Department of Insurance? And he's able to go, we agree with you, but we did it. And here's their letter back telling us that we needed to come to court. So here we are. When you follow the steps correctly, it is also very beneficial. So most of the cases, most insurers are not going ahead and going through with small claims court. They're settling before they get there. So you can see that email from the attorney representing Allstate that just says, hey, I've been authorized to pay this so we don't go to small claims court. You see the one in the back from State Farm that has an ordered judgment, $4,805.37. Those generally, State Farm loves to settle with it before going in. They just want to push you up to the day of. But sometimes those are default judgments because they just don't show. So it's not like they settle it on the court steps of the day before. They just don't show, and it ends up being a default at that point. Them getting somebody to go down there and rep them, for the most part, sometimes they'll show up. We had one in California where they sent the claims manager to show up. It didn't go well. And the shop got more than they were asking for because it sort of infuriated the judge a little bit. But that all starts. So I have shops, people post online now and they're like, do I do right to appraisal? Do I do small claims court? What do I do? If you're going to protect your shop from having an insurer sue you, or you want to help a consumer be able to use small claims court, it all starts with your contract of services and then your timeline and documentation. But make sure you have one. I'm greedy. I always tell people I love money. I love piles of it. I want tons of it. I'd love to sell you my legal forms training and and the legal package and some stuff that we have. But if you don't want to do that, that's cool. Just please make sure you are not stuck with just those 2 old forms from the late 80s, early 90s that went out to body shops trying to use those as the means for why you say you are either authorized to charge something or you are legally entitled to collect for something. So make sure you cover your bases there. All right, well, what's next? So this little article came out. It was the California Department of Insurance doing kind of their labor rate surveys, and the letter kind of got written a little wrong. And so some people from the industry kind of chatted back. And the result of it was that there's going to be a 3.1% rate increase for body shops in California. And, that's great. I am all for raises. It just struck me how far behind we are. Like, if we look at inflation and everything that's happening, not just to our materials, but to labor and all of that, it's well beyond 3%. But after a Department of Insurance and an insurance company does a labor rate study, we're going to get 3.1%. We probably need 31%. Probably would be a little bit better if we move that decimal over. But it just struck me as how kind of off things are when it comes to that rate game and some things. If you're not itemizing, you have a couple of ways to do that. You can line itemize materials, labor, etc. Or you can invoice those. It's just, there's not a labor rate hero. Freaking hate that thing. There's not a labor rate hero coming to save you. There's no survey that's going to get done, and you're magically going to get your labor rates and your material rates and everything set to what they need to be. You're going to have to do it on your own. You're going to have to charge what your expenses are. You're going to have to write them down. You're going to have to itemize them. You're going to have to collect them. That's even if you're a DRP. Most of the shops that we work with that have DRPs have an easier time getting their expenses reimbursed on the DRP than they do for the insurers they're not a DRP for. But you have to be financially healthy, and that is a healthy growth, healthy net profit, so that you can have money for rainy days and dips in economy and when things get slow or when training needs to happen, any of those things. This is not a month-to-month business. And for so long, so many body shops, because most of, like my dad, we were technicians and then became a shop owner. You don't really know business. You just know that you put a sign on the door and you work and you put money in an account and you take money out of an account, and you're confident in your ability to work and use your hands to continue to make money. And so it's head down, nose in the work, and just grinding every day, in and out, in and out. But there has to be this 50,000 foot level these days that somebody, if it's not you, if it's a business consultant, if it's a coach through like your small business association in your town, whether your chamber of commerce has business coaches or whatever, not an industry necessarily business coach. Some of those questionable. But somebody needs to sit down and kind of teach you how to look at those things and learn what a healthy net is and then how to achieve that. We've got a C20 group that has Rachel James that runs it. She's well known in the industry for finance and all of that. I'm terrible at it. I've struggled with my own business finances for my whole career, right? So definitely not even something I would coach you. I have shops call me all the time. Can you help me with accounting? God, no. If you don't want to like go to jail with the IRS, you don't want me even thinking about looking at your books or giving you advice. So that's what we have Rachel for. But I know we have a small business administration here that's attached to a college, and they do a lot of coaching. You can go in there and they'll teach you how to do your own P&L. There's all kinds of resources within a community that have nothing to do with collision repair. Business is business, so to speak. And be sure to take advantage of those resources, because here the state's so proud and we get 3%, and we all know it's not enough. I mean, we're going to take it. Obviously, we're going to take that 3.1%, but it's not really enough. So we have a lot of work still left to do. All right. Tesla fails again. I don't know if there's a story in the last couple of years that hasn't involved a Tesla failure at whatever the hell they're trying to do. And they are terrible at running a certified collision repair program. They're terrible at body shops. We had some technicians at the Tesla-owned shops that were writing in, I think last month. All of a sudden, from all over the place, we started getting all these messages saying that the Tesla shops were getting on DRP programs, and then they were going to start working on non-Tesla model cars just to try to make some revenue, which I thought was very funny. You can't even make money fixing your own damn cars, and you're the OE. And then you're out here telling body shops not to charge for things. Like, who the hell are you, right? Like, your job's an OE. You write a repair manual, that's it. And then you shut up. You don't do anything else, and you don't tell shops what they should or shouldn't charge for. Now you're going to be reviewing estimates, which I think is even more entertaining, because your shops can't make money profitably, but you're going to review estimates and try to tell your other shops across the country what they are and aren't going to charge for. But Tesla is terrible at insurance. So S&P Global reports that their claims payments are exceeding their premiums. So right now their loss ratio is 103.3. So basically they overspend for every dollar they take in, they're spending $1.03. So that means they're losing money hand over fist. Now the good news is that was their 2024 number was 103.3. Their 2023 number was like in the teens, like 116 or something. So at least their loss ratio has come down a little bit, but it's still not great. So they can't fix their own cars. They have found that it is significantly higher than the national average of loss ratios of other carriers. Now, this is incredible. So the loss ratio of other carriers in this category of insurance is 66.1. That's a hell of a ratio. So for every dollar of premium, we're spending like 66 cents or whatever. That's really, really good. That would be probably why you see some record posting quarters of profitability from insurers right now. That's all-time low. But if that wasn't enough, so you would think, okay, well, at least if we're overpaying claims, our customer loves us. No, 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 not quite so fast. They have the lowest CSI score of anyone in the market as well, which also caused me to chuckle. There are posting boards and groups all over social media of people the hold times trying to get answers on their claims, to get an adjuster or whatever, just continues to rise. The repair cost on a Tesla is 32% higher than other cars in that category. So that would be other EVs, which is shocking in a lot of ways. But it takes what it takes to fix the car. So you wrote a rule book. We've talked often about when the Tesla certified program first came out years and years and years ago. This is one of the better ones I've ever seen. They had great repair procedures. They had great diagrams. They had controlled estimating. They had, access to estimating. One carrier was it. It was a great program. And you had shops spend a lot of money to become Tesla certified, and those shops worked their ass off, and they were doing really good things. And their reward was Tesla watered it down and seemed to want to serve it up to insurance companies. And some of that was cost of ownership. State Farm got really pissy about Tesla, came in on them really, really hard, was threatening to not insure them. Which then I was like, if you're going to have your own insurance company, who cares if State Farm's not? You'll just pick up those policies. But apparently they didn't want to pick up the policies because they knew they really sucked at handling claims. And so they've continued to dilute their program for a lot of different reasons, mostly because when it comes to the collision repair certification division, they keep hiring people with insurance claims backgrounds to run the damn thing instead of hiring people that understand body shops. So these people, if we go back to adjuster attitude from sharing that video talking about insurance companies and claims or whatever, they think it can always be done cheaper. They think the shops are always overcharging, and that's where we're at. So I am very interested to see what happens as soon as you have these people with these insurance backgrounds reviewing estimates that are uploaded, and I guess approving them under the new Tesla thing. The Tesla has to the shop has to upload the estimate to Tesla to get approval, I guess, before they can send it to the insurance company or release it to the customer or whatever. That this one will be fun to watch. If you can't handle claims, why the hell are you reviewing estimates? That just doesn't seem like that makes much sense at all. What legal liability could go wrong there, right? That's another one that we'll keep an eye on. Tesla, just quit. Just quit. Just close up your start. If you're going to let anybody order parts, you're going to let your shop start fixing Hondas, whatever that is, just let it go, right? It's just not working. Just walk away at this point. So we'll see what we got. All right. So Wisconsin did this really cool thing. So the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, the DNR, which I thought, wait, do not resuscitate? So I always have the DNR forms or whatever. Released this online tool to help shops with environmental compliance. Now, if you are not in Wisconsin, that's cool. I think you should still kind of go look at this website and use it to think about your shop. So as I've had discussions about total losses, total loss storage fees, et cetera, with various insurers, and the fee seems to be very high for them. Why am I paying $125, $150 a day to store a car? It should be $25, $30. And then I have to sit down and I have to walk them through, what does storing a car mean? And what are the exposures to me as the owner, because that car is on my lot. If you're in a waterway state, or is, what was it? Seafaring. Okay. So 2 weeks ago we were in, where were we? Rhode Island. We were in Rhode Island, and we were talking about cars, and these shops were talking, and suddenly Larry goes, well, it's because you have vehicles in a seafaring state. And I turned around and went, seafaring? Aye, aye, Captain. What the hell is that? But but waterway states, so states that have lots of water, those can be your Rhode Islands, your Massachusetts, Louisiana, Florida, places where there's water everywhere. You have a lot more EPA rules. If you're in a downtown environment, an urban environment, and your shop is close to a subdivision of homes or whatever, you may have even more requirements or of those. So this is a really good way to think about things that I don't think a lot of shops really think about, because once you have a car on your lot, it's not just when you're actually working on the car that you have exposures and things. So you can go through this. I've had a lot of fun with it. Basically, that's the welcome screen. It says, "Hey, if you're an auto body repair, right? We've got a little special, I guess, forms and some things for you." You go through it and ask some questions. You probably would want to go through that. It's going to ask you about, your VOC offputs and some other things. Do you know how much VOCs you're releasing or creating or I guess making throughout the process of your day to day? So you go through and you answer some questions, and then you choose, when you know what you are, you choose these different things, whether it's air permits, water discharge. So if you're washing cars and that water's leaking into the ground or it's going into a drain, we always talk in California about reclaiming. They have to reclaim that drain water and some other things. Some things that us like in the South or the Midwest, we don't necessarily, but we do have requirements on water discharge, waste management, additional resources, et cetera. But you can click through here and ask the questions. One of the big things is, can I answer the questions? Do I even know the answers to some of those? Yes or no? And then while this is Wisconsin, you'll still get you'll get their state and you'll get some federal requirements. It's just interesting to think about all the things that you have to worry about. There's some things in here that I would print off and send when an insurer is asking me about why storage is not $30 a day. Hint, hint, Oklahoma. Some of the things there. So they did a really good with this. I like tools. I like things that you can do and share and give to people. So they did a really great job with that, which was something I think more shops. There was a time, there's not a lot at CIC that I like, but there used to be a gentleman in California that would come to the CICs and he would give an update on EPA and workers' comp and all of the stuff that shops have to do that we don't even know, like securing sandpaper if it sands a clear coat and has an isocyanate on it. I mean, just things that were just kind of like, wait, I'm just ripping that stuff off and throwing it in the trash, right? Those were good. I think most of the time we don't know what we don't know. We do know that as certain funding becomes not available through the government in certain ways, different departments will have to make their revenue, not have it handed to them. And so it's kind of like that small town that is known as the speeding trap that writes a lot of speeding tickets. Don't be surprised if there's not an uptick in visits and tickets and fines and a lot of things coming out here as we get closer to the end of this year. So good times to take yourself through this and just ask yourself, do I know everything that's being covered in this little web tool, or am I at a loss? Do I not have the answers for some of those questions? Do I not understand them, so that you can get help? First line of defense for that is typically your jobber. And then we have some really good services in this industry you sign up for and you become a client. It's kind of a monthly, and they really help you with that, with all your compliance issues and making sure you're compliant. So there's some really good services out there, but your jobber is typically your first phone call to make if you're worried about that. All right, let's talk about what's upcoming. There's a lot coming up here. I will not be doing much for the month of June, as I'll be traveling a whole lot. But tomorrow, if you are in our C20 group, we're going to discuss total losses. So handling processes, SOPs, and understanding your fee schedule. So, what can you charge? What shouldn't you charge for? When should you charge things? What are the processes and SOPs for handling them? contracts, communications. We're just kind of going to do an overview of total losses based on the uptick of replevin being filed by insurance companies, particularly on the East Coast right now. And then law changes. So if we look at California, we look at Oklahoma and some other things, we're going to talk about some of that. All right, Thursday, if you are in the state of Oklahoma, we're going to talk about just the changes with the Oklahoma law and some considerations and some things, particularly EPA, OSHA, all of the things that come with having a vehicle on your lot that you're responsible for. June will be sort of a whirlwind of a month for me. And then come July and August, we have 5 classes that will be web-based coming out. They won't be, well, there'll be a live proponent of claims adjuster handling. So claims adjuster 101, handling procedures and claims law. That's a basic for all adjusters. They don't teach it anymore at the insurance companies, and shame on them because they're creating probably what's going to end up being very large bad faith lawsuits. Not really the adjuster's fault. They just don't know, right? So we have that class. I think if you're going to be an independent adjuster, you definitely need to have it. If you're going to be a body shop, you probably need to understand claims on some level. You know your enemy, know yourself, so to speak. If we go back and we think about our art of war and some things, you need to understand that side of the fence and how it differs from what you're doing, writing estimates as a collision repair shop, and it helps you craft your emails a little bit differently. That one there'll be some physicality to that class. You can come and join it if you want to and sit in person and have that, I guess, peer-to-peer after the class, sitting around at dinner and lunch and whatever. But then that will be available online as well. We're going to do a more advanced right to appraisal class about assignments and best practices. I have spent the last 30 days getting phone calls from customers and shops, so vehicle owners and shops that have hired some Yahoo to handle their right to appraisals. And things have been going great for like the last year or whatever. It's been easy peasy. Bob, I assign it to Bob. Bob handles it for the customer. We get the check back and life is grand. And then here within the last couple of months, the insurers have changed strategies. And in some cases, they're just refusing to honor the RTAs, or they're coming up with reasons that they believe they don't have to do the RTA. And what it's done is most of these yahoos who've if you were a body shop guy, you have a lot of like a body shop estimator. Great. You have some great experience. You had no business handling right to appraisals. Right to appraisals have nothing to do with, can you write an estimate to fix a car? And most people thought that that's what it was. Well, I can write an estimate and I can negotiate repairs, so I can do right to appraisals. That's not what a right to appraisal was. And so as soon as the insurer sort of shifted the game, a lot of these people are abandoning them. So the insurer sends back a thing that says we refuse to honor the RTA, and these guys go, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. And they drop the claim, keep the customer's money or the shop's money at that point, or they've just let them fester. And people are calling me and going, Kristen, it's been 6 months and nothing, no one's going anywhere. No, it doesn't take 6 months to do a right to appraisal. If you do your job right, it doesn't take 6 months to do them at all, specifically when you look at state laws. So we're going to talk about what to do when it goes wrong. So we're going to do best practices, and then we're going to talk about if an insurer tells you that they're refusing to honor the RTA because the vehicle's already been repaired, what do you do? If you've sent 3 notices and you haven't got a response back, what do you do? So we're going to talk about all that. Then we're going to have the small claims court for collision repair. I'm working on an attorney to join for that one, but we'll just talk about kind of like if the customer decides on a short pay to proceed through with small claims court as a shop, how do you support that? How do you help prepare and make sure that you're checking all the boxes? Then we have total loss best practices and replevin proofing your business. The insurers are not playing around right now when it comes to total losses and how much the fees are increasing their severity. So, like we were talking earlier, you need to have the right forms, the right services agreement, but then there's some record keeping that you have to do. And if you do it well, you end up like Glendale, where the insurer you file your reply and they go, oh, our bad, we're going to have that dismissed, right? Like it happens all the time. If you've got your stuff together, if you don't, then why not roll the dice and try to get the car out for free? those attorneys typically. They're using staff attorneys now for a lot of that, which is interesting. So, they're already on payroll. It's not costing me anything to try to screw with you. So at that point, and then negotiation for artificial intelligence. What do you do to get a human or to get that process going to get something out of an AI world? And you can't negotiate with a computer. So what are the nuances when artificial intelligence? So I get calls all the time going, okay, Kristen, negotiation class sounds great, but all I'm getting are emails. I can't get anybody on the phone. I can't figure out. So we'll have that negotiation for artificial intelligence and some things to do. I always tell people, there are things we're doing right now that work, and they'll work for a little while, and then the game's going to change, and we're going to have to come up with new things, and we're constantly evolving. There's no one way right now to do everything. Um, we have to assess what's on the other side of the table, what the training has been, what their mentality and mindset are, and then come up with a way to handle it based on that. There's no one size fits all. There's no one method that's going to get everything done. And that's what we'll be talking about in these classes. So, well, let's wrap it up with what's on the shelf. Moving out of the office has been fun, so to speak. I don't even, it's at least 10 years in that place. I'm losing track of time. And I don't throw anything away. I think I posted the other day, we used to do these claim evaluation forms on bodily injuries. I have them still. So filling out claims evaluation forms, I don't seem to throw away anything. You never know what documentation you're going to need. But on the shelf behind me this is probably my second laptop. I don't think this was the first one I ever got in handling claims. It's Mitchell release date 1999 on it. You can power this thing up. Look how thick this thing is. This literally weighs probably 8-9 pounds. It's a brick. This could be a murder weapon. I remember we had to issue a statement to tell adjusters to stop putting them in the front seat of their car. There was a time when we got, was it MapQuest? But it was this GPS thing, and you had to plug it in, and it had to power off the laptop, and we would get these desks, and so we were trying to do MapQuest. But so people were driving around with these things open in their front seat, and you hit the brakes, and it would go flying, and we were buying windshields. It was cracking dashes and hitting, right there above the glove box, because this thing's like a brick. But this was my first 1999 laptop. It does still power up, and it has the little bouncing paperclip on it, for Microsoft Word. And Mitchell Ultramate is on here, and it will open from 1999. So people ask me all the time, what's changed in the paint times by square foot? Because I can take say a Ford Taurus from 1999, and I know the square footage of that hood, and I can compare it to a square footage of a hood today, and we can look at paint times, and everybody goes, how do you know that? And I go, I don't know. But yeah, so that's my 1999 laptop, and it's probably somewhere above the typewriter on the next shelf is my Polaroid cameras and some other things. So that's kind of fun to be going through all of that stuff and finding it. I did sit down and read the other day through my lawsuit evaluation form. So that was one of the things that, a file would get. So you'd have the field or a claims office, and they would get served suit papers. And then you had to write a report and send it up to corporate and go, hey, we're getting sued, right? And then there has to be another evaluation where you go, what is the potential exposure? What's the potential settlement? What happens if it doesn't settle? And I was going through those, and then I was kind of laughing because I was working on the progressive right to appraisal issue. And I was messaging some people at Progressive, and I was like, we got to talk, because I know I'm going to win this one. And if I do win it, it means you're going to reopen every closed claim going back probably 10 years. And you don't want to do that. And I don't want to do that either. So I wouldn't want to do that if I was in claims. So I don't know if they still do that anymore. But having to have that conversation with yourself going, what's the worst case scenario if you decide to proceed with defense and we lose, what happens? And having to write that paragraph was probably one of the best learning experiences in my life, because I I, ooh, I like to fight. I do. I like to argue. That's my thing. I get my teeth sunk into something and I will not let it go. Um, and so I don't like to lose. And so that means I didn't like to settle. I never ever wanted to settle. I'm like, let's go to court, right? But having to do that and write that out and go, what's the consequences of a loss? And how many other policyholders does that affect? And how much money would it affect? And would it limit our ability to service in other areas? And it's probably one of the best things that ever happened in my career is to think about that bigger picture. We all like to win, but sometimes winning has a cost that's too great in some ways because losing has a cost that's too great too sometimes. So anyway, that's what's on the shelf. So big week ahead. I'll be in this week classes Tuesday and Thursday this week. If you are not a member of our C20 group and you want to consider joining, well, that's just really simple. Shoot an email to Melanie and she'll talk to you about it. If you are in the state of Oklahoma and you want to be on Thursday's class, please shoot an email to Melanie. There's no charge for that one. It will be an open discussion. So it's not me going to be saying, here's what you need to do if you're in Oklahoma. We'll talk about some things. This is not the first time something like this has happened. We can look to Louisiana and the way that the state police handle storage there, kind of as an example. You can look a little bit to what's going on in California, but we're just going to talk about it as a group and some things to consider. But shoot Melanie an email and she will get you the login for that. It'll be a Zoom meeting, so pretty easy. All right, everybody have a fantastic week. And I will see you next Monday on Coffee Talk with episode 35. Thanks, everybody. See you later. Bye.